Hey everyone, it's Attorney Matthew Legan Sanchez here. Today let's talk about the most feared and hated word in divorce, alimony. Alimony is a type of support. It's similar in some natures to child support. The difference is alimony is based on suggested guidelines, whereas child support is mainly based on clearly defined laws. So the difference between a suggestion and a law means that your judge is going to have wide discretion to decide alimony. So a wide discretion basically means you have a very small chance of winning on appeal if you don't like your judge's decision. So similar to other issues in divorce, when you can't agree outside of divorce on the elements such as alimony or spousal support, you're putting the decision in your judge's hands, and if you don't like what you get, you're going to have a hard time getting something different or getting the judge's decision overturned through the Court of Appeals. Alimony can be a very squirrely issue. It's a very gray area issue because it's based on guidelines and suggestions rather than concrete law that you can base an appeal on. So how is alimony determined? Alimony is going to be determined on a number of different factors. There's factors like age, education, income. There's a number of different factors, like 10 different factors. Now, the two most important factors when considering alimony are need and ability to pay. So just like the scales of justice, the court is going to weigh one party's need and one party's ability to pay. So if one party has a big need, but the other person has a low ability to pay, the court's going to weigh that out and they're going to see what the appropriate amount of alimony is. And as discussed, your judge has big discretion to decide what the amount of alimony is. It's going to be really hard to appeal that decision. Difference in income is one of the biggest indicators of alimony. Like if one spouse was a primary breadwinner, they make a lot of money, the other person was a stay-at-home parent and they don't have much training or education, that's going to be a case where alimony is clearly an issue based on the need. Now, the other element of alimony that's very important is the length of the marriage. Less than 5-year marriages usually don't result in alimony. Now, the court can give a transitional or rehabilitative, a short amount of alimony when there's a huge need, even if it's less than 5 years, but usually no, the court's not going to do alimony with less than 5 years. Now, between 5 and 10 years, the court can do a transitional type of alimony to enable a parent to be rehabilitated or a spouse to be rehabilitated, to get training, experience, education, and it's really going to be up to the judge in that circumstance how long the amount of alimony is needed. They could find that it's between 30% to 50% of the length of the marriage, which is really typical with longer marriages. For instance, if a marriage is between 10 and 20 years, then the court usually is going to give alimony, if it's appropriate, for 30 to 50% the length of the marriage. So if you have a 10-year marriage, you should expect alimony to be in place for about 3 years to 5 years. With marriages that are over 20 years, it's indefinite alimony. That means the court retains jurisdiction over the issue, and alimony can continue indefinitely until one spouse either dies, remarries, but potentially alimony can be indefinite till one person passes away or remarries. It's important to understand the two different types of alimonies. First, there's modifiable alimony, and second, there's non-modifiable alimony. Modifiable alimony is a monthly amount usually that a spouse has to pay. Say, for instance, a spouse is ordered to pay $500 a month in modifiable alimony. That amount is usually based on the length of the marriage, it's based on the difference in incomes, the need and ability to pay, and it's going to be a modifiable amount, which means in the future, if there's a big change in circumstance, like the person that's paying the alimony becomes unemployed, disabled, that person can file a motion to modify and they can modify the alimony amount. On the other hand, with non-modifiable means non-modifiable. Now, you have to look to the language to determine if it's modifiable or non-modifiable. And non-modifiable usually has language where it's a lump sum. For instance, where one spouse agrees to pay the other spouse $50,000 over the course of 5 years. That's language that indicates a non-modifiable amount, and it is what it is. You're going to be stuck with that agreement. If that's what you agreed to in your marital settlement agreement, the judge is not going to modify it. So if you agree to a lump sum non-modifiable amount, it means it's non-modifiable. So a motion to modify is not going to be successful in that case. With alimony, you can agree to a lump sum payment, or you can agree to exchange property in exchange for the alimony. So for instance, let's say you don't want to have to make a monthly payment, you don't want modifiable alimony, you have a 10-year marriage, and you realize, hey, I'm going to be on the hook for about 3 to 5 years of alimony. And you decide, I don't want to pay that. I would rather buy out my ex's alimony claim with a portion of the home that we have. So you could say, look, I will give you X amount of the equity over and beyond what I'm entitled to in exchange for your claim for alimony. You could agree to a lump sum payment. You could agree, I will pay you $100,000, for instance, over the course of 10 years. You can make those agreements and you can buy out the other person's claim for alimony. So you don't necessarily have to do a monthly payment. You can always agree to a property distribution or a lump sum equalization payment. Also, do you have more retirement account build up during your marriage than your spouse? Then you may consider using part of that to buy out your spouse's alimony claim. So in addition to your home or a lump sum payment, you may not have the money in your bank account for a lump sum payment. You can also consider to give more of your retirement account in exchange for the alimony claim. Do you still have questions about alimony? If so, talk to an experienced attorney. Talk to Matthew Legan Sanchez by calling 505 Sanchez. We'll get to the bottom of your alimony questions.